Welcome to another special Saturday edition of Daily Dose of Septuagint, and we're going to continue in our examination of the very famous manuscript from around the mid-4th century, Codex Vaticanus, one of my favorites. And you'll see a picture of it there on the screen. This is my own personal facsimile copy of it. It's big, it's beautiful, it's very significant not only on the New Testament side of the equation, but also as a very important witness to the Old Greek of the Old Testament as well. If you want to take a look at high-res images of it, you can visit the URL there on the screen. Now, I initially recorded this particular video in a series going through the Greek of Genesis. And you may be wondering, why am I not using passages from Genesis as the test case? Well, the problem is the first several chapters of Genesis in Codex Vaticanus have been lost. We're not 100% sure why. And so they were added back in much, much later. You can tell that this is minuscule handwriting from the Middle Ages. And so from a text critical perspective, the first several chapters of Greek Genesis in Vaticanus really aren't that significant or all that useful. So we're going to continue in Isaiah. And we're going to take a look at the first page of Isaiah today. In the first column of Isaiah, remember Vaticanus has these 3 columns, happens on the same page where a different Old Testament prophet ends. And again, just to remind you, this is a 3-column layout, as you can see. Well, let's zoom in and see what is the book that ends on the same page that Isaiah starts. So if you zoom in, you'll see a nice little decorative end piece or corona showing you that this is the end of the book. And if you write it out, this is Malachi. This is the book of Malachi. You may be wondering, well, why in the world is Malachi coming before Isaiah? Well, the order of the books outside the Pentateuch and some other main chunks in Codex Vaticanus and many other Septuagint manuscripts are not necessarily the same as what you're familiar with. And it just so happens that Malachi precedes Isaiah in the way this codex is put together. Now, you also notice this interesting thing right here. Now, that may look like some weird word called ib. It's iota plus beta, but that's actually a number. The Greeks and the Hebrews actually used letters as numbers. And often, at least in Greek, you would put a bar over it to show that this is not a word, it's a number. Iota here equals 10. Beta equals 2. You put them together and you have 12. So that little number indicates that not only does Malachi end here, but the 12 prophets end here, all the 12 minor prophets, which are often considered one big book in the Greek and by the way, Hebrew tradition. This, by the way, is a stamp from the Vatican Library. It's not original. So kind of a cool way that Malachi ends, but let's go up to the top of the next column. This is the start of the book of Isaiah. Couple things to point out. You'll notice the name of the book is up here, Isaias. Remember that our sigma is spelled like this, not like this. Some nice little decorative things here. They don't really have tremendous significance. It just shows you, though, with all this coloration and so forth, that this was a well put together manuscript with a lot of care. It's a substantial piece, and obviously a lot of money was put into Vaticanus, and a lot of animals gave their lives to produce the parchment upon which it is written. Well, let's take a look at least portions of Isaiah 1, verse 1. You may be wondering, where's the first letter? Well, if you squint, you'll see there's an omicron here. The original scribe put it there, and then whoever re-inked it, because that's what happened to Vaticanus at some point, didn't repeat it. Instead, what we have is this nice little decorative initial letter. It's kind of like a drop cap with blue ink and red ink and so forth. In fact, they even put a rough breathing mark and an accent. And so this is the start of the first word. It ends here. This is horasis. So let's erase that O. We don't need to. Horasis is from horao. Well, it's not from it, but it's related to that verb that you know. It's the noun form. It means vision. Well, vision of what? Hain is the next word. Notice a rough breathing there. This is the relative pronoun, but it's accusative singular feminine because horasis is also feminine. So it's a vision which, and then this is where, getting some practice with majuscules is really helpful. If you know your vocab, you'll see that this is a word that you've seen many, many times in the Greek New Testament and elsewhere. It is Aiden, which is also from horao, but in the aorist form, a third singular aorist active indicative. And so this is a vision which someone saw, Aiden, Well, who saw it? Here's the name. It's not complete. It's Hesa. It actually continues on the next line. Hesaias. This is the vision which Isaiah saw. Or if you need help here, Horasis, Hain, Aden, Hesa, and then it continues on the next line. Well, who is this guy? Because remember, this is verse 1. He's going to tell us some things about him. The first word, or the next word here is huios, which is familiar vocab word. Again, it looks a little bit funny because you might not be super well versed in your uppercase upsilon or this lunate sigma, but it is son. Son of whom? Amos here. And there's no special genitive ending for that because it's a Hebrew name. He's the son of Amos or Amos. And then we have a repetition of Hain. Same thing that we saw up here. So we're finding out more about the vision which he saw. So this Hain points back to here, which points back to the Horasis. And we once again have the same verb, Ada. And, that reflects the idea that the new is movable. But here's an interesting thing. If you really zoom in, you'll see there's an overbar here. It's not been re-inked. And this overbar is a very common way that the original scribe of Vaticanus, would do an N at the end of a line. But whoever re-inked it apparently didn't prefer those movable news and just did not re-ink it. But you can see the trace of it. So which he saw. And then we have two katas here, back to back, kata and katates. There's your article. So it's kata with the genitive here, Judaios. So that's nice. That's the Judeans. Sorry, there's if you need help, there's the transcription, and now we're on the next line, against the Judeans, or against Judah, if you will. Sorry, in the singular. Now we have a little connecting word here, and you would expect, as you can see in the transcription, a chi. Well, that sure doesn't look like a chi. This is an abbreviation. Scribes, especially as time progressed, were very just like we might do today. In English we might do an ampersand, or I do it like this. Well, that looks like a C. I often do my ands like that or something. My handwriting's not great, as you can already tell. But this is the ligature for the first letter of chi and a little tail, sometimes with another line. So this is chi against, and who else is it against? Against Jerusalem here. So here the oracles of Isaiah begin with a vision that he sees against Judah and against Jerusalem. So another fun round taking a look at Isaiah and Codex Vaticanus. We'll come back to it next week.